Hello, my name is Stacy. Welcome back to Reads of an Apple, and I'm here to start my vlog for the Love in the Night Readathon. I'm very excited. I have been slacking on reading paranormal books this season, or this year, and I definitely want to focus on getting as many paranormals as I can read through the end of the year, so I can fill up my paranormal bracket for my favorite paranormal romances of 2022. So I have some binging I need to do, but I'm hoping that this will give me a good kickstart to see how many I can read before December 31st. But I did do a little bit of a TBR, so I'll link that up there. I also have a little bit of an announcement I usually do for most readathons and reading challenges that I'm participating in on my blog. That's always in my link tree, but I will just kind of touch base. So if you did not know, Love in the Night is hosted by Heather, Steph, Laura, Izzy, and Shay. They'll all be linked down below. It is currently October 9th. It's almost 10 o'clock already at night, and I have not read anything today, but because I have been busy crocheting this morning. But I'm excited to start the readathon. And I might make it last till the 16th and just go crazy all next weekend, since I didn't really have a chance too much to read today, but we'll see what happens. I really wanted to pick up, like, I'm really in the mood to pick up No Rest for the Wicked by Kresley Cole. This is the second book in the Immortals After Dark series. However, I know I will love this, and I know that this will make me want to binge the rest of the series. I've read the first book and the prequel a little bit ago, and I did not pick it up because I did not have time to set aside for like 10 plus more books. So I'm a little nervous about picking this up because I don't want to completely just read Kresley Cole for the readathon. So I'm going to save that till later. And I decided I'm first going to pick up That Time I Got Drunk and Saved by a Demon. This is the first book in Kimberly Lemming's Mead Mishap series. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, and it is a little bit of a shorter book, which will be perfect because maybe I can get through most of it tonight before I go to sleep. And I know it will at least work for 2 of the prompts. So, speaking of that, before I kind of leave you, here is what they are doing. They are doing a scavenger hunt this round instead of a bingo board. And there are just a couple of prompts: unique paranormal, diving deep, getting horny, eat her out, toil and trouble, new to you author, and drink me. And I know at the very least, this will work for getting horny and new to you author. So I'm excited to try it. I've heard good things. Yes, it's a fantasy romance, but I'm counting it because it looks fun. And even though I need to read more paranormal, the last 5 books I've picked out, only one of them has been a paranormal and the rest have been fantasy. But I just can't get away from fantasy romance because I love it so dearly. But yeah, I'll stop rambling, and I'm going to get ready for bed and get all cozy and spend the rest of the night reading, and I will be back to update you once I have read some of That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. Good morning. I'm on my way to work, so I figured that I would do a quick update. Last night I actually did start That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, and for the most part I'm enjoying it so far. I'm on chapter 7, which I think is 37% in, so I'm about a third of the way through. And so the basic premise is Cinnamon is a spice farmer in this village, in this world, and every 15 years, there is a witch who turned into a goddess named Miva, or maybe Myva, it's M-Y-V-A, and she needs heroes, and there's basically 4 main villages or towns around her, one in each cardinal direction, and a hero is chosen, and usually the most prettiest, flamboyant people are chosen. And when this book starts, it is during the Heroes Festival or whatever, and the heroes are like headed off to fight. Now everyone reveres this goddess because she created some gates that are known to hold back demons and monsters, and so every 15 years people are sent to kind of help reinforce the gate and take care of the demons that try to escape and all that stuff. So it was a fairly kind of stereotypical setup, except for we are in the POV of someone who does not want to be the hero and who is not chosen to be the hero. I feel like usually with setups like this, you end up with someone who is either reluctantly becoming the hero or is the hero, and we follow their journey. So that was interesting. But so Cinnamon is super drunk and she is headed home, and there's like a loud noise that everybody hears and they think it's an earthquake or something, but it ends up being actually a landslide. And when she comes across this landslide, there is someone stuck inside of it, and when she unburies them, it turns out to be Fallon, who is a demon, and he basically ends up exposing the truth to Cinnamon and her family. So Miva is not a goddess. She is a witch turned lick. So it's weird that this is the second book with a lick that I've read this year, when it's usually just been D&D stuff that I deal with licks. But so he basically exposes the truth and shows her an amulet and explains that what happens is every 15 years she sets all the demons to kind of go crazy, and she can affect them with her magic, I guess. And then when the 4 heroes show up, she usually just kind of sacrifices them to increase her a naturally long life. And they destroy her phylactery in this town, and then she kind of mentions like, oh, the other 3 temples. So now, and then he convinces her to go to the other 3 temples. So she has made a deal with him, and now they're gonna go break the other 3 phylacteries. It's super fun. There is some interesting chemistry between them. I definitely like the way that the world is kind of being laid out. I feel a lot better going into this than the last book I read. It just seems to flow a lot easier. My biggest issue is, and it kind of took me a little bit to get used to, but there are still points where I'm just like, whoa, did that just happen, is Cinnamon's speech is very, very modern. And I mean, I don't need them to speak like old ye English Elven when I read a fantasy romance, but it's a little too modern. Like, she's using common phrases and stuff, and it just doesn't feel like I'm getting descriptions of like a stereotypical like fantasy village that's loosely based on like medieval times or just historical of some sort, of some genre, of some era. But she's talking like I would expect a Gen Zer. I mean, there's a couple of things she said where I was like, oh, that's one of those phrases I don't know, is an elder millennial. So I was just like, well, this is odd. And so it does throw me out of the story a little bit too, because it just isn't, I don't know, isn't what I'm used to. And it's cool that it what I'm used to, but I wish that she would pull back on the modern speak a little bit, and it was more like, if she's gonna use modern speak, keep it more just like general or professional, like what you would use at the workplace kind of things, and not all of these other sayings. She also cusses quite a bit, which I know that other people in fantasy worlds that do have a more generic or a more fantastical way of just, or a more historical way of speaking, they do. I don't know what this guy is doing. Just take your time, dude. They usually don't do things like that, so I don't know. It just throws me out a little bit of the story, but overall I'm enjoying it, and I'm liking that Fallon was the first to kind of say, oh, you know, I like you, you're intriguing, I'm gonna make you my wife after all this. And she's just like, what? So I don't know, we will see what ends up happening. I'm excited I got so far. I know that this is a little bit of a shorter book, so I'm hoping that I can finish it here. If I can find my thingy here. How do I let you go? There we go. There we go. All right. So I'm hoping, oh my gosh, and now I keep saying it. I'm hoping that I can get another, probably third of the way through, if not farther tonight. But I will update you later once I have definitely read some more. But I'm at work now, so I will see you all later. Hello, happy Tuesday. Oh my gosh. I literally just got done filming my clip for my weekly vlog where I did my quest calendar, and I had to look up what day it was at the beginning of that clip, and already I'm like, what day is it again? But anyway, happy Tuesday. So I did read a little bit more of That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon last night. I am at 60% of the way through. They just finished destroying not only the chalice or the goblet or whatever that's in the second temple, but pretty much everything else in the town too. So that was surprising. Obviously, kind of going forward for the rest of this book, there will be spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, switch or scoot forward until you see a new book cover, because then I'll be touching base on the next book. But I am still mostly enjoying this book so far. I have not... I thought it was interesting that we find out that he's actually kind of ish a shapeshifter, and it sounds like what's demons in this world are mostly shapeshifters, because in this new town basically all the demons have been enslaved, but not by Miva, but like mages. So they've somehow extended what she can do, and these guys are, they're slaves, and it's horrendous. They all have to wear like collars, and it was a bad situation, and she is absolutely horrified. First of all, that demons are just kind of wandering around, but then how they're treated, when, as she knows, Fallon, he has a mind. He is a sentient creature. He's not like an animal. So, not that my kitty doesn't have a soul or a personality, but I'm sure you get what I mean. So I just think it's kind of interesting, and the way that it was kind of set up, it did seem a little bit heavy-handed, but Cinnamon ends up saving a werewolf, and she finds him with his owner, who was a tanner, in front of a place where they like skin things, and he's trying to get him to shift into his werewolf form so they can get the pelt and he can sell it for money. And he's like whipping him to try to get him to shift forms. And it wasn't really explicitly said if that was going to kill him, or with his like regeneration powers, he's just going to be in a lot of pain for a lot of... I don't imagine that was the case, but I was like, is this dude doing this because he wants him to constantly regenerate a new pelt and he's like a cash cow, so to speak, for him? Or did he get this werewolf demon as a slave just to kill it for its pelt? I don't know. It was weird. It didn't really go too much into details. But there is... And I feel like this is kind of what is detracting me overall from the story. Is, well, it pulls a lot from the stereotypical fantasy... I don't know if tropes, but just kind of setting and ideas, and with that more historical context. But then there's some modern things, or some things aren't being, like, the fantastical elements aren't being explained enough that I'm having questions. Like, at no point, and I guess it was a fun reveal that Fallon is actually a dragon, and that's what his form shape shifts into. But there was no hints, no realization whatsoever that demons can turn into other creatures. And she's talked about specifically like werewolves before. But now it's kind of being talked about that like all demons have like a bestial form or something like that. So I don't know. I'm just a little confused by it. And then there's a point where she's wandering around getting food, and she goes to a place and gets nachos. Like, she goes from a tavern where they're giving her soup, and she's talking about, like, roasted meat on spits and stuff, and then some dude is selling nachos, and I'm like... So, it's just... Like, I can get past some of her speech being a lot more modern and having modern colloquialisms, but as I flub over my words here... Like, the nachos thing, I was like, really? Like, I feel like they're trying to come off as, like, cutesy and fun, and I'm trying to just kind of go along for the ride because that's the vibe of this book. But when little things like some of it, I'm just like, okay, fine, whatever, we're going with the flow. And then something like, she's buying nachos, and do you want just a thing, or do you want a bucket of nachos? And she's like, I want the bucket of nachos. And I'm just like... And then she's like, I don't understand. What are these tiny, crunchy corn things? And if you're so flabbergasted by the idea of freaking nachos, what I want to know is, how are these nachos made in this world? Like, show me the people who are processing the corn into tortillas to then cut into chips and fry. Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm being super nitpicky, but overall I'm enjoying it. But there's just some things where I'm just like, instead of just being like funny and kitschy, I'm just like, really? Of all the foods that you could choose, you go with nachos. We couldn't have gone with something that we think of more modern, like funnel cakes, but actually has been around for quite a while, or something like that, or meat, or even like a corn dog. Like, I can see, even though corn dogs we think of as like a modern food, I don't know when corn dogs were actually created, but I can see a corn dog type food being made in a historical context at these fair things, sticking meat with bread and like frying it or cooking it or somehow or something like that. Like, I can, like, the idea of it, I feel like, isn't that weird? I don't know. Not that nachos are weird, but I don't know. But do you see why I'm having a little bit of issues where I'm just like, okay, this is fun. We're going. I'm enjoying where we're going. I'm liking kind of learning more, but at the same time, I feel like what we're learning isn't quite what I want to learn, and maybe that's a me problem. But I want to learn more about like the magic and the way that the shifter things. Like, I want to learn more about the fantastical elements other than the more modern, I don't know, conveniences or however you want to say it, that Cinnamon is going through. I want to learn more about this magic. And they're also now sleeping together. And I mean, it was fun and it was steamy, but I didn't find it, I don't know how to say it. Like, it wasn't very, I don't know. For me, I didn't really feel the tension between them, I guess. Like, it was very just like, okay, now they're doing it and do, instead of like me being wrapped up in the emotions and the tension between them and feeling that like magnetic force between them. And I was kind of feeling it before with their banter, and maybe the situation and how they first get together is, and it's not like anything, I guess I can see people having issues with it being like dubious consent. It didn't bother me in that aspect. It was more just like, he literally just turned into a dragon and burned most of this city down around them. And the woman that was helping them out, that was one of the tavern owners, of the place that they stayed at, is helping them find a ship. And because her cart got destroyed in this giant fire and destruction. And so now they're going to have to use a ship to get to the next place. And they're going to be wanted in this town. And so there's talk of like, we need to get a ship and we need to go because you guys are going to be wanted. And, you know, you freed all the demons in this town. And you also now have 2 demons who are potentially going with you, plus you when you're a dragon. And let's go take a bath in this. Like, she goes to kind of calm him down and bring him back into his like human self, I guess. Or his humanoid shape. And they end up freeing some, I guess they were supposed to be gladiators, because they're in some sort of coliseum. And they were dressed weirdly, like kind of ish like gladiators. And then the gladiators kind of hit on her because they're surprised a human saved them. And then they kind of hit on her. And then one of them's like, oh, but you're mated to the dragon. And then the other one's like, I don't see no mate marks. And I'm like, how the hell would you know that she's mated to the dragon in the first place? Like, maybe she smells like him, but it's not talked about like, oh, I can smell the dragon on you. It's, oh, you're probably mated to the dragon. Why would you think that? And then the dragon lands behind her and they run away. And then he takes her up to a bathroom and forces her-ish to take a bath and get clean. And then he gets clean. And then he takes her to a bedroom and they're just going to do it. And I'm like, this is not We are running for our lives now. You just burnt the city to ash. Now is not the time to hang out in some random bedroom. Which, why is there a bedroom in the Coliseum? And it's like in the top level of the Coliseum. So it's not like where the fighters would stay, where they would need a bathroom. I'm just like, I don't understand some things. And like I said, I'm being too nitpicky and I'm letting my mind get stuck on these things. But I'm just like, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the vibe for the most part. And I'm trying to just like go with it. But at the same time, I'm just like, those little things where I'm just like, I don't understand why the characters are making this choice or this decision right now, outside of the fact that we want to get this little, like put in the nachos for fun, or put in this little thing for fun as like a wink and a nod or crazy fun antic. But yeah, so it's 7:30. I'm going to stop rambling at you because this clip is longer than I thought it would be. So, and I feel like I just went off on this book really hard, even though I'm still enjoying it. And right now I'm giving it probably like a 4-star, but we'll see. I got 40% left, 2 more towns, 2 more chalices to break. So we'll see how it ends up. But this definitely was not the type of fantasy romance I was looking for. But I also went into this completely blind, just knowing that people were enjoying this and not exactly why or the difference on why. But I am still having fun. So I will be back once I have most likely finished the book. But I'll see you later. Good morning. It is Wednesday morning. And last night I did finish that time I got drunk and saved a demon. I was originally thinking last night when I made my clip 4 stars. But I think I'm gonna go with 3.5 stars. I slept on it last night and really just kind of was thinking about this morning and how exactly I want to rate it. And I mean, I enjoyed my time reading it. There's no doubt about that. But there were a couple moments where, even though I kept telling myself, just let it be, it's just go with the flow, there were a couple moments where I was like, wait, what? Or where the hell did they get this? Or something like that. Here's the thing. It got a little too convenient for me, and I expect for things like that to happen because, I mean, that's just the plot device that's been used in many different types of fiction forever. But they're on the pirate ship. They actually apparently didn't sleep together all the way. And there's another dragon, which, side note, he's a silver dragon, which gray, silver is my favorite color. And apparently all dragons do an element, and he's a storm, and he has like the white blonde long hair, and that dragon is like certainly up my boat. But I don't know, they get in a fight and then they crash land on this island because, you know, they're dragons, so they're flying above the ships. And Cinnamon sees that one of the chalices is tied to him, so it was a trap to kind of take care of Cinnamon and Fallon. And if it's a trap because Miva is worried about them getting all the chalices, why the hell did she tie one of her 2 remaining chalices to the dragon that she sent to go deal with them directly? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, that's such a like plot convenience type of thing. It doesn't make sense. Why would that be the option that Miva chose? I mean, it would make more sense for her to take it, and she's doing like her last stand at the final temple. Take the third chalice and take it into the same spot as the fourth chalice if this is going to be your like last stand area. And then, oh hey look, both of them are here. I wouldn't have been as like, really, if that had been the thing, because okay, fine, whatever. She thought she was gonna win and she just wanted to hide them. I don't know, and then the last 40%, a lot of little things like that kept popping up, so I felt like getting to the end of the non-romance plot was just really kind of rushed. And then there was this big battle, and we see the heroes from the beginning of the book, and I don't know, my big moment for this one is when they crash land, the two dragons go into like a deep sleep to heal and to replenish their magic, which is what I'm assuming. It's not explicitly stated, but there is she like starts taking care of them, and she builds a fire and she does all this stuff, but okay, fine. And then she's like, oh, their hair's all matted. I pull out my comb, and no joke, I said out loud to my cat, where the hell did she get a comb? A comb is not something that you keep in your pocket. And she didn't grab her stuff. She grabbed her bow and quiver. Like if she fashioned a comb of some sort. I was just like, oh my god. So a bunch of little stuff like that. That one was the big one of the last 40%, where I was just like, really? And also, there is talk about how hard it is to break the chalices, and how she'll hit one with a hammer and it just cracks. And so she has to hit it a couple more times, and it's never just a one hit break the chalice. And for the final one, Miva's like dangling it around, which I don't understand why she wouldn't have hidden it in the temple anyway. Instead, she's like waving it around for everybody to see. I don't know. Weird choice. People were making weird choices. But then Cinnamon throws a hammer, like Hammer throws it, like an axe throw, and it magically hits the chalice, and the chalice shatters into a dozen pieces. So I was like, okay, all right, we're going the easy route. So I don't know. It was fun, but last night when I was thinking, I was like, I'm still thinking of giving it 4 stars, but I went on a long rant about things that are bothering me. And if things are bothering me that much, is it really a 4-star? So I think I'm going to go with 3.5 stars, but I'm going to round it up to 4 stars on Goodreads. I didn't think to check my book beforehand, so let me just look at my book. So for Love in the Night, I can use this for getting horny, because he has horns. Eat Her Out, and New to You, author. I can push it to cover more, but I'm just going to do those 3. So there is that. I was thinking last night, I didn't pick up anything else because I was like, let me go to bed on time / early for once. Early for what my schedule has been lately. But I decided that I'm going to pick up The Captive Merman's Promise by Zoe Castile next. This is a part of the multi-author Peculiar Tastes. Oh gosh, I can't say that word. Peculiar. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know what's happening right now. But I'm going to do that. That is the group book. So I know that it will cover most of the prompts that I don't already have, as well as some of the other ones I've done. So I'm excited to start that. It's been a while since I've read a merman or mermaid, either romance. I think the last one I read was Grace Draven's something in the wilderness, which is one of my favorite of her novellas. That's part of the Wraith Kings. It's part of her Wraith Kings series, but it's a novella, A Wilderness of Glass. I don't know. It has a merman, and it's set in the Wraith Kings world, and I loved it. So we will see. This definitely seems like it'll have darker vibes than that, but I'm excited to see how it goes. But otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow. Or later, I guess. Not tomorrow. I don't know. It's almost 9 o'clock in the morning, so I'm sure I'll have something to update later tonight. I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get done, though, because as you can tell, I've got my jersey, and today is the season opener for my team, the Colorado Avalanche. Hockey is back. I cannot wait. So we'll see how much reading I get done tonight, because tonight is not only the first game, but they're doing the raising of the banner. So if you did not know, my team won the Stanley Cup last year, so tonight they're going to have the big ceremony where they raise the banner and celebrate. It's like closing, the way that the coach said it on his morning show yesterday is he sees this like ceremony as like finally turning the page for, you know, last year's championship and really kind of starting this season. But I'm hoping for a back-to-back championship, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I will see you sometime, I'm sure later tonight, but for you, it'll be very soon. Hello, happy Thursday. I am here to make an update. As you can tell, I've got more Avalanche gear on. They are starting the season with a back-to-back, and they are in Calgary tonight. Last night they were at home, and they are in Calgary. Puck drop was supposed to be like 15 minutes ago, but it's Calgary's home opener, so they're doing their big announce the starting lineup, and we've got national anthems for Canada and America, so there's a lot going on. So I still have time before puck drop. Last night I finished the group book, The Captive Merman's Promise. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. Overall, I enjoyed this. I thought this was super fun, super unique. I definitely have, I don't know, a kink, a thing, a very high interest of mermaid and merman romances. I was very intrigued by it. There was one point in the book where he talks about his claspers getting all excited, and so like I did the definition of claspers, because being from a landlocked state and not knowing very much about sea creatures, I was like, I don't know what that is. So I looked at the basic whatevers of the definition that like your Kindle can give you, and I was like, this doesn't help me. So then I spent way too much time looking at claspers and their purpose and how sharks mate on Google. So I'm sure my Google searches are going to be super weird for the next little bit. But, you know, it was super interesting, and that's something I've never thought about before, is how sharks reproduce. And apparently the claspers are like their main appendage. And they have 2 of them because they have 2 reproductive fins. But it also sounds like it's not like a real, like, man's organ, and it's more like a tube that deposits their seed. So I don't know. It was kind of an interesting, and I was trying, and then I was like trying to like actually understand what it is, because it seemed like they didn't actually have a normal appendage that we would think of. They just have these claspers. But the way that the merman is written, he has both. But then when he was talking about his claspers, his are completely different, because apparently he has one above his appendage and one below in his balls. So I don't know. I still don't quite understand exactly how he looks in that area. and then he also gets turned into a human, or he gets legs. And I understand he grows legs, and he kind of was like fish colored, and his appendage is talked about as being blue, but his skin tone isn't really talked about. So I don't know if his legs are blue or if his legs are the same color as whatever his tail was. Maybe I missed that description in the beginning, but it just, because it wasn't like super obvious that like in alien romances I read, where it's just like he's purple, everything's purple, and then like his appendage is dark purple or something like that. So I was picturing more flesh tones. And then she was like, his appendage is blue. And I was like, wait a second. Is that the only part of him that's blue? So then I just got kind of really confused. But outside of little stuff like that, I did really enjoy this. I thought it was like a good like little palette cleanser. And this is the first. I have a couple of Zoe's other books on... Ooh! The Abs just scored. Woo-hoo-hoo. But I have not read them yet. So she is a new to me author, but we'll go over the prompts I'm using this for in a little bit. Why I gave it 4 stars though is I felt like there was kind of a lot of exposition and a lot of setup in the beginning, and for being like about 100 pages, it's just over 100 pages. I did wish we kind of moved along a little bit quicker in getting to where they meet and we get the setup. And then I almost feel like some of that exposition could have been moved into her discussions with him instead of glossing over the fact that they talk to each other really deeply right away. And feel this faded connection is kind of how it felt, but it's not talked about like that way. Or at least faded isn't the term that they use, but it felt like a kind of fated mate situation. And then it's like once, and then we got the like bad guy, and then that was just like boom, 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 and super quick. And I feel so I could have used with a little bit better pacing with it. And then just like little things where I didn't quite understand either the way that the magic worked, or, oh, suddenly the magic has this property when it didn't really seem to have that property based on the way she was using it before. But I thought the idea of her family having been, or all the women in her line having been cursed. And see, and here's another part where I was confused, because to me, at first, the way it was kind of worded was when they fall in love with each other, that is when the curse takes effect. And whoever the lover is of the woman of this line, they end up perishing. And pretty quickly. And because it's like the curse feeds off of the love and it kills them. But then at the end, she obviously doesn't love him, but he loves her. And so she uses the curse against him, but he doesn't actually love her. He loves her. I don't know. I just didn't understand it, because he loves her ancestor, and he's the one who, so spoilers, spoilers. He originally cursed her ancestor, and he's still in love with her ancestor. And he's like superimposed those feelings onto her because she has the same name and she looks very similar to her because they're all on the same line. But so I don't know. Some of it was a little bit confusing that I could either had it been tightened up or it just been completely loosey-goosey. So I'm just like, who knows? But instead I felt like there were some parameters that were given that the magic works within, but then it was doing things that didn't fit inside those parameters that were like already introduced. I hope that makes sense. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. 4 stars. For my scavenger hunt, This works for Unique Paranormal, Diving Deep, Eat Her Out, New to You author, and Toil and Trouble. So, officially, I only have one clue thing that you have to find. I don't know. I know they're normally clues in scavenger hunts, but if I can reach my bag here. Here. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so there's 7 things that you have to find, and I only have one left that isn't already covered by the other 2 books that I've read, and that is Drink Me, which I'm pretty sure this book will have. So I do plan on picking up No Rest for the Wicked maybe tonight. We'll see if I pick it up during intermissions or something, or during my post game stuff. But at the very least, I will at least start it tomorrow night at the very latest. And this is the second. It's book number 2 in Immortals After Dark, but this is the 3rd book in the series, because there is a 0.5 prequel. And this is between a Valkyrie and a vampire. So I'm sure there's going to be him biting her and drinking her blood of some kind. So I'm excited to get back into Immortals After Dark. I've been wanting to read more in this series. I definitely enjoyed the first 2 books. When this series started coming out and was really kind of in its heyday in the 2000s, I was into other long-running paranormal series. So I just never got around to also picking this one up. And I read the first 2 and loved them, and knew if I picked up the second one and started kind of going through the series, that I would only read this, and which is fine. I love it, but I have so many book clubs and other things that I read now that I kind of have to structure when I can mood read and read whatever I want and when not to. So I have held off, because I know, as Becky from Bookcase and Coffee says, machete a series, and I can see myself doing that to this series. And this has been a series that has been on my list to continue since I started it. And before that, it was a series I need to read. So it's always on a list somewhere. But I'm excited to start this. And I know that there's some specific books that I know some basic tropes or ideas of what's going on later on in the series that I'm very interested in. There's one with a ghost, and I think a vampire. So I'm very intrigued about that one. I'm very intrigued about Lothair, because that's like ultimate morality chain and bad guy. I have listened to Fated Mates talk about all of these books, but it was a couple years ago. So I don't remember too much about it. But I do plan on, once I read this, re-listening to that episode of Fated Mates to kind of get their takes on it. But I did find, after I read the first book in the prequel, and I went back and listened, there were some perspectives that I took that differently than like when I read it. And I also thought that they definitely took a lot of political undertones from it that I did not. But maybe that's just because that is not a forefront in my mind, is politically thinking and things like that. But anyway, I'm excited to start this tonight, or whenever I start it, but I will let you know once I do. So yeah, I'm excited to read Immortals After Dark, or at least more of them, because it's been a while. And that's all I have. So we are 6.5 minutes into the game, so I'm going to get watching the game, or at least focusing on watching the game. And I will update you once I have something more. Hello, happy Friday. I'm here to update where you update where. I don't. What are words? It's been a long week. It is almost 10 o'clock. But I have things to talk to you about. Last night I started and I only got like 50 pages in, but I was reading when I got home. No Rest for the Wicked. So I am now 186 pages in. That is about there. And in case you wanted to know, I'm using my Help Save the Bees bookmark today, or this read. And Sebastian has my heart. And sometimes I'm like, why is Katerin, or Katya, as he calls her, why is she so mean to him sometimes? And I get it, he's a vampire, but he's just a poor broody boy. Oh, he is my vampire freaking catnip. And I know if I had read this book like back when paranormals was like the only thing I read romance-wise, that and romantic suspense for some reason, he would have been my best boy. I love him, but I definitely also have this like nostalgic feeling love for him, because I'm just like, why is she so mean to you? I won't be mean to you. Oh, I love him. And I'm very intrigued on this, what do they call it? I know, I'm gonna look at there's a glossary in the back, which is totally freaking awesome. Let me see what it's called. The High. They're like on a paranormal amazing race kind of a thing. And it's the Talisman's High. So fun. I had no idea what was going in. I didn't read the blurbs or anything. And I don't really remember them talking about like this amazing race thing in Fated Mates. I'm sure they talked about it, but I don't remember that because it's been so long since I read it. And when I was listening to it originally, I was probably more focused on the romance itself and not some of the more like plot type stuff. But I am having so much fun with this. I wish we got to see, at least at this point, I wish we got to see a little bit more of what they're doing. So, I mean, we saw the stuff in Antarctica, and then he saved her from the cave-in, and that Bowen caused, with the basilisks. But I wish that we were seeing a little bit more of that, because right now we're kind of staying in Sebastian's POV, and he's basically just showing up to help her at night, and then he's, you know, sometimes he stays and sometimes he doesn't, sometimes she doesn't see him for a couple of days. So I do wish that we got to see more of like the amazing race portions of it, and the different kind of talismans that they're collecting and the different kinds of things that they're having to do. But maybe she's leaving it all, because I don't know if these two are going to be the final two to go to the final round or whatever, the two finalists, or if it'll end up being one of them and Bowen. But I'm very intrigued. And I mean, she's kind of breaking my heart with the fact that she doesn't have, like, she's getting her feelings back. And she has, 10 centuries or something crazy of feelings to get catch up on. And she is just going through the ringer. And I'm just like, ugh. There's a lot going on. And I am here for it. I am loving it. But there is a lot of talk, or maybe not talk, but just dealing with, I don't know, emotional maturity, I guess would be the way to say it. And just because she hasn't felt feelings in so long, and now she not only has to kind of identify them, but learn how to deal with them again. And I love Sebastian, and I love her. I love that she's kind of starting to soften to him a little bit, but I'm ready for her to soften more. But I still have like half the book left. I have 150 pages, so I mean, we still got some time, but I'm just like, I'm loving it. And I am nervous because they're going to win the key, or they're hoping to win the key, which allows 2 uses to travel back in time. And she's hoping to travel back in time to save her. She's one of triplets, I believe, or they're her like real sisters and not her half sisters. I'm not 100% sure exactly. I feel like she said they were triplets, but maybe not. But her 2 sisters have died. And so she wants to go back, and she feels like it's her fault. So she wants to go back and save them. And part of me is worried. Now, I know they're going to get their HEA. I know this is a romance. But I am slightly nervous on if that second use is going to be given to Sebastian. And if he's going to use it to choose to go back in time and not become a vampire. Although he's starting to kind of accept what happened to him. And even if he still doesn't like it or agree with the decision Nikolai made, just learn to live with it. So I don't know if that's what he's planning on doing. But then how is he going to become immortal? To stay with Katya because they're fated mates. So I'm nervous. And I know it'll all work out in the end, but I don't know how. So I'm nervous. Rinks. Excuse you. Come on. Cheese was just eating kitty food, and Rinks decided she needed to clean all the crumbs off her face. But she is an old lady kitty and can't handle that. Because you are a puppy with lots of energy. Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah. That was Rinks. My brother's dog. But I'm loving this, and I'm going to go back to reading this tonight and spend the rest of the night reading in bed. We'll see. I want to get through most of this, as much of this as I can tonight. I'm hoping to get to maybe 300-ish pages, so like another 120. And then I can have a little bit to read tomorrow. I do have some stuff that I need to take care of tomorrow. I have a live show for crochet along that I'm doing, and tomorrow is the next post of the next 2 weeks of the pattern of the gingerbread blanket I'm doing for the crochet along. So I definitely need to get started on that. And I have a birthday present I have to make this weekend because it's for the following weekend. So I don't know how much more I'm gonna get done for the readathon, but I at least want to finish this, and I already know for sure this is going to finish out all of the remaining prompts on my scavenger hunt. So if anything, I might just try to pick up a novella or something. I need to pick up the Rake Appreciation Society book soon too. So I have a lot of stuff going on and what I want to get done and what I need to start this weekend, but I'm not quite sure how that's going to pan out yet. But anyway, I'm enjoying this so far, and I will be back up to update you if something else happens or once I have finished it. So I'll see y'all soon. Hello, happy Saturday. Today is the official last day of the readathon, and I have some updates. It is about 1:30. I have a crochet live show at 2 o'clock that I need to participate in, but I have not read very much this morning because I had some other things I was taking care of, but I laid down to do some reading and realized I need to do an update. And I was like, oh, I'll go sit in my chair, but I've got this. And then that one's over there. Say hi to Boob. So, yeah, I've got a puppy on top of me now. Last night I finished No Rest for the Wicked. I'm gonna give this 5 stars. They broke. Let's see if I can get it where there's no glare. They broke my heart. it broke my heart. And then I was like, oh no, she's dying. And I didn't know how it was going to happen and what exactly was going to happen, because I know in one of the other books, I think a heroine is a ghost. So I know that like people could die. And so it might not be a normal, like kind of traditional HEA. But it all worked out in the end. Oh my gosh, I really hope Nyx gets a book. I am obsessed with Nyx. I'm very intrigued because we learned more about Fury here. And I'm kind of hoping her sisters get books. They're very interesting, and I like the kind of like fish out of water in a new time, and millennia ahead. So and he was such a sad boy in the end. I love Sebastian, so he's definitely my favorite hero so far. And I liked Katerin. I think I like Emmeline a little bit more. Not that I disliked her, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do a ranking video of the series once I get through it, but I want to binge the rest of the series, but I kind of also know that these are going to be books that I'm going to absolutely love, because so far all of them have been 5 stars for me. And so I almost kind of want to pace them out to make it last longer. But yeah, I loved it. I could not put it down. I was up till like 1 o'clock in the morning finishing it, but I was just like, you know what? I don't care. Tomorrow's Saturday. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to do anything. In the morning at least. So I finished it. And I liked that we did get to see a little bit more of the Amazing Race kind of stuff. Oh my gosh. And it was so hilarious that they had the whole thing with the Naga box, and it was in his pocket, and then when Bowen threw him in a river, and then it just like fell out of his pocket, and then it pops back up later as another option to collect. And she's like, why does it just say it's on a riverbank in Colombia? And he's like, oh, it fell out of my pocket. I loved it. And even though she didn't 100% trust him about what happened, she very quickly, like, she wasn't really, like, there wasn't really too much misunderstanding, and while she didn't trust him 100%, she very quickly, like, was like, okay, so you were telling the truth. And she didn't like make a big deal about it, which is fine. So she just kind of moved on, and in her head she was like, I don't know if I believe that, but whatever, I'll move on. And then like with the box, and he's like, oh no, it fell out of my thing, and she's like, oh, so you were telling the truth about being in the river in Colombia. So I don't know, I loved it. And I have this problem with books that I love where, yes, there are lots of things I could gush about, but most of it's just me like, I don't know what to say. I loved everything about it, and read it if you haven't, and join me if you have not read Immortals After Dark in reading this very popular series. So I'm happy I'm finally kind of moving forward in it. I have my notes here. The readathon, I used it for unique paranormal, because I think her world building is unique, and Katerin's a Valkyrie, which is not a normal, like, paranormal monster. I also applied it for diving deep, because he's in a river. There's one of the challenges when she has to, like, swim through this, like, shark-infested portion of the ocean, and then she drowned a couple times, and so it's like this huge... I mean, there's quite a few times where they were, like, in deep water, so I was like, I'm gonna count it. another Eat Her Out so far. All 3 books have filled the Eat Her Out scavenger hunt, which is fun, and Drink Me. So I have officially found all of the clues for the scavenger hunt. And I'm going to try to read one more book before the live show, or at least read it tonight. Now, I have Alessa Thorne. I have read Alessa Thorne before. I was looking at what I already kind of had checked out on KU. And I've read her Court of the Underworlds, most of the books in that series, which are mythology retellings based around like Hades and Greek monsters and his court. And I consider those fantasy because anything mythos based I consider more fantasy than paranormal. But I have not started her Mercenaries and Magic series yet. I know that these are supposed to be a little bit darker. But she has it listed as a paranormal something on Goodreads, so hopefully this is paranormal. This might be one that kind of toes the line, and I know everybody has a different separation for what fantasy versus paranormal is for them. But I'm going to read this. It's a little shorter. It's in the 200 page range, so hopefully I should be able to get through pretty quickly. I feel like Alessa Thorne's usually quick reads for me, but I'm excited. I know this is Athena's book because when she was writing this and it first came out, people were obsessed. Alexa, dismiss. People were obsessed with Athena's character, so I'm excited to read this, and we will see how far I get. So I will update you in a little bit. Hello. I figured I would update. Sorry for my weird hair. I just got out of the shower, but I was going to sit down and put it up in a bun so it can get slightly curly over the next couple days. And figured I would do an update. So the live show was super fun. I watched that, or participated, I guess, because we chatted in. And then I took a shower, and then I have a cup of tea steeping. And tonight I'm having one of the Adagio Wicked teas, which is their Halloween collection, and I went with the Monster Mash tonight. It's a black tea base. I don't remember what all the notes in it are. I know it has green sprinkles, and when I first got it, it had like little sugar googly eyes in it, but those are all gone. There was only a couple of those in there, so those left the first couple scoops. But speaking of, I should probably stop steeping it. I did start, and then I ended up taking a nap, so I did not get too far in it. But then I woke up with like an hour or so before the live show started, so I was able to get some more read. But I did pick up Darkest Night. Let me see where I'm at. I'm on chapter 17. I am, exactly 50% of the way in. It has been forever since I read an Alessa Thorne book. I found her back in 2021, like I mentioned earlier, when I read her Court of the Underworld series, and I read that during Pharaoh-Feb in 2021, which I think was actually the first Pharaoh-Feb as well. But I have missed her writing. I have added every single book she has written since then, and I don't know why I stopped reading her, because I still have to finish Court of the Underworld, but I paused because she still had 1 or 2 books left to come out, and then I was like, okay, I'll wait till the rest of them are out. And then, you know how it is, I just never went back to pick her up, but I have been meaning to go back and pick her up, because when I found her and started following her, she was talking about how obsessed she was with Egyptian mythology and how she wanted to continue her God's universe. And since Fab in 2021. She has done so. There is the Gods of the Duat trilogy, which is Toth. I don't remember who the other one is. I know the final one is Anubis. And then she wrote a Fae series, and I still have not read the Fae series, and that was Wrath of the Fae. And then the last book in the spin-off of that, the Ironwood series just finished, and the 4th one just came out this month. And I'm just like, ugh. And she had said in one of her more recent newsletters that she plans on going back to the Magic and Mercenary series, which is what this is a part of, and doing books 3 and 4. So we should be getting those in 2023. And hers are shorter books. I fly through them. I don't know why I have not picked her back up. And I am just kicking myself right now because I don't know why I haven't picked her up. Yeah. So yeah, I'm 50% in. But let me actually tell you about this book. So this is Athena and Kon, Kon, and it's, I struggle with saying his full name because I want to say Constantine, but it's not Constantine. It's like Constantine. Constantine. Constantius. Constantius? It's Konstantius. Constantius. Constantius. It's Turkish. I don't know. But I am loving this book. This is like Tomb Raider, National Treasure. She gives me a little bit of Kate Daniels vibes, where she is just badass as all get out. I'm obsessed with Athena. She is so kick-ass. And this book starts out super steamy. And it is the first time she meets Kon, and they sleep together, and she is out celebrating after finding an artifact. And that is basically what she works in. She does artifact recovery. We find out later in the book, but most of her artifact recovery is she recovers these artifacts and she returns them to, I can't remember the specific verbiage he says, but like the original owners or original keepers of these items. So like she steals a medallion from him, we see, and he is just thinking she's selling all these things on the black market. They've got competing buyers. But she is actually returning it for free. She jokes with him that she did it pro bono when she stole the medallion, but that she returns it to the guardians of, because it has something to do with an Indonesian god. I believe it's an Indonesian god, or they're in Indonesia, but something with a Middle Eastern Asian god. And she returns it to the guardians who like guard and protect and preserve the cave that this artifact was originally stolen from. So she's like the good guy. But she is like a complete enigma because she was found as a young girl, super bloody. Her father figure, she calls him dad. They do have like a 12-year age gap-ish, I feel like. So maybe it's more than that. Because he's 48 and she's her hacker friend who's a part of their group. His name is Silas. Her father figure is Silas. He's 48, I think. And her friend and hacker person, Isabella, is goo-goo-eyed for Silas. And I think she said she's 37 or 38. And she's 6 or 7 years older than Athena. So I think Athena's early 30s and he's late 40s. But he's her father figure. So I guess 18-ish years age gap. So yeah, I guess that kind of works. But he is a mercenary and he was doing a job and sent to Russia to guard or assess or do something for some sort of situation. And he ends up finding basically this entire area of people was murdered, and it was really weird because it looks like these people attacked each other with anything they could find. Excuse me. And then when they were done killing each other, they turned on themselves. So everybody was dead. And then he finds the trail of blood going into the forest in Russia, and he finds a man murdered, and then he finds Athena as a young girl covered in blood, just holding a knife. And she wouldn't speak, and she wouldn't anyone near her outside of Silas. And so he basically kind of adopted her. There is talk about how he took her to a nearby town to see if anybody recognized her, if he could figure out who her parents were, if they knew who she was. Nobody recognized her, knew who she was. So he just kind of kept her and felt, I guess, beholden or like he needed to be the one to take care of this young girl from this weird situation. Now, this is where the paranormal comes in, because the person that did this, and this was at an archaeological dig. So Khan is working for a man that he used to work for like Turkish gangs, and then he worked for somebody else doing artifact recovery. But this was for people who, like, rich people who would rather have them than send them in a museum. But even though museums aren't 100% good as well, but that's a whole other thing. He stopped working for this woman to work for this man that he's working for. His name starts with an L. It's not Leo, because Leo is his friend. And this man killed his parents, and his parents were magic users. That is what he said. They were magic users. He didn't call them witches or wizards or something like that. And then he burned the house, and he managed to get out. And he was hiding in the closet when this happened. So he knows that this guy was a part of this like secret shadow government kind of situation, that they were known for being kind of politically, but then they also had this weird occult kind of background to them. And then there was talk that they disbanded, but what they didn't really disband. They just kind of went back into the shadows and kept their occult practices. So he's been working for this man, trying to get him to trust him and get close together. Well, he is after that medallion I spoke about earlier in Indonesia, and he is dealing with trying to get this medallion from this Indonesian gang dude. And Athena shows up, and since he first slept with her several years before, so there is a huge time jump after the first chapter to the second chapter, they have run into each other off and on, and basically tit for tat, because that first night they met, he ended up stealing the item that she was celebrating recovering, which was an item that was lost to time before she had found it. And so throughout the years, they've had run-ins where they've both been after the same item, or they've been in the same area and run into each other, and then they kind of steal the items back and forth from each other. So it's this like very like cat and mouse contentious play between them. And I just really, I mean, they're very steamy, and it is definitely lust based to start with. But now she gets a ping that there is the staff of Moses is up for auction, and so she's gonna go to the auction, even though it's not an item that's been like assigned to their company. And they're like, why? Her hacker friend is like, this isn't our case, and this kind of situation is not going to be good for you to go in and steal this. And she's like, no, I'm not going to steal it. I'm going to see who buys it, and then we can plan to steal it back from them at that point. And it's in Istanbul, or no, it's in Turkey. No, it's in Istanbul. And Khan shows up, and this is like his turf, and he is just like, you can't be here, you need to leave. I was suddenly told and he, in his mind, he's thinking, I was suddenly told I had to be here. There are situations going on. I feel like this is a trip. And then what ends up happening is when he is talking to her, when he first sees her, when he walks into this auction before it started, he gets a call from this boss dude, and he's like, I knew you were lying. And because both of their like boss people have been like, why aren't you just killing this other person? But I think they kind of know that they're dancing around each other. And so it's kind of cute that everybody's just like, just kill him already, or get it out of your system. And she's just like, yeah, can't get him out of my system. But she doesn't say that. I don't know. I just love the dynamic between them. They're both kick-ass, and he definitely has those protective instincts of her. But at the same time, he's also like, oh no, I will let you go. You take down that girl. They have to get to some guy, and he runs like cage fighting. And so she enters, and it's to the death. And he's just like, I don't like this. I want to protect you, but I know that you can take out the other person. I just don't want to see you hurt. And I mean, she takes out this other person, and she is just crazy in a fun way, and I am enjoying this. It's a little bit of a darker feel than her Court of the Underworld. Oh, it's just so good. But anyway, I keep going off track. So they're at this auction. His boss finds out, and basically now his ex-boss has put out hits on him and her. So Athena has the higher one, and he knows it's because he wants him to see her die first by all of the other mercs going after her, because she has the higher bounty, because she has like 75 million and he only has like 500,000 or something silly. So now they are paired together, and now they're going to try to take down him and potentially the rest of this occult kind of people. So it is just so fun. I mean, I will say, she loves her knives. And there isn't a lot of blood play, but there is a little bit of blood play. So if you're like super, super sensitive about it, it's not more blood play than I would see from like a vampire romance. So I mean, there's definitely she just barely grazes him enough to make blood come to the surface, and then she licks it off of him, and just little things like that with knives. And she gets turned on when he gives her a knife, and I don't know, I love her, and I love him, and I love the way that this is kind of playing out. And I'm super intrigued how this is going to play out in the rest of the series, if they're actually going to be able to take down this guy specifically in this book, because he killed Khan's parents, and then the rest of the series will be dealing with the other like heads of this occult group, or I don't know. And I don't know if the next book we're going to be focusing on his little group of people or hers. I feel like we're going to go more towards Athena's group of people, because she's got her father figure Silas. There's Dante, who is either bi or gay. He's definitely checking out Leo, who is Khan's little hacker dude. And it sounds like Isabella might be paired up with Silas. So I know that there's like books 3 and 4. So I'm guessing maybe one of them is Silas and Isabella. And maybe one of them's Leo's book and the other one's Dante's book. But I don't know. I try not to read too, like, she'll send out blurbs, and she does a lot of, if you like Alessa Thorne and you haven't signed up for her newsletter, sign up for her newsletter. She is constantly sending out sneak peeks and chapter previews and prologue previews, and I feel like every other week there's a newsletter with more chapters. And I read the top part and I read the closing, but I don't actually read the sneak peeks. I don't like to read the sneak peeks. I know that they get people very excited. I'll read sneak peeks in newsletters if it's from an author that I haven't read very much of before, but like Elsie Silver, who I adore, and Julia Cross, who I adore. When they post sneak peeks, I don't read them because I'm already excited for the book, and this will just make me sad that I don't have it yet. And I also like Victoria Aveline, who's one of my favorite sci-fi authors. She posted a sneak peek for Resisting Maxu, which comes out on the 2nd of November, and it's from like chapter 6 or chapter 16, and I looked at that and I was like, I really want to read it. I really want to read it. I really want to read it. But then I was like, I don't, because it's in the middle of the book, and I know it's probably not too spoilery. So I just skimmed it, and I was just like, because it was mostly like a steamy scene, but I was just like, I don't want to spoil myself. And I usually don't care about spoilers. Like, I will look at spoiler reviews, but at the same time, if it's a book of an author that I trust and is a favorite and that I absolutely love, I'd like to try to go into it as blind as I can. So, all that to say, I have loved the first 50% of this. It's very steamy. There is a lot of tension between them, and they cannot keep their hands off of each other, but it is nice that now that they're kind of being thrust together to be around each other more than just these explosive meetings where either they're getting at each other or fighting over an artifact and then meeting up later to bang it out. Now they're having the quiet moments and the slow moments and the moments to just kind of talk with each other, and are almost kind of forced to open up about their history because the people that they're going against play such a pivotal role in both of their childhoods. And so they really are being pushed to be open and more vulnerable with each other, but they're not fighting it, which is really nice to see. I don't know. I have other things to read after this. I need to start the Rake Appreciation Society book tomorrow. I don't need to go into another. The first time I read Alessa Thorne, I read the first 5 or 6 books of Court of the Underworld in a row. I just binged through her series. I don't need to go on another Alessa Thorne kick, especially this time of month, because we're in the middle of the month, which means now is when I have to start focusing on book club books for the rest of the month, and then throw in mood reading where I can. But if I just stick to the series, there's technically only one other book out. I don't know. I'm just rambling because I can't help myself, and I'm enjoying this. If you have not read Alessa Thorne, definitely check her out. Like I said, she has a lot of stuff out. I can't believe how quickly she's going through things, and I think she has 4 books planned at least for next year, if I remember correctly. And I know at some point she was talking in one of her newsletters, or I saw on social media somewhere, that she was really getting into Roman mythology. And so she was looking at expanding her gods universe into the Roman mythos, but she was looking at doing maybe goddesses instead of gods. Although the Court of the Underworld does have both male and female gods and mythological creatures, but most of them are men, and the gods of the Duat are all men. But I would love a Bastet book from her, but I have a special place in my heart for Bastet. But are we surprised? Because she's the god that looks like a cat. She's the god of motherhood and fertility, and I just love Bastet. But anyway, off of Alessa Thorne, definitely pick her up. Or not off of her, but Definitely pick her up if you haven't read her. I love her books. Like I have said, I fly through them. They are shorter. They're in the 200-page range, or at least this one is. And they just make me happy. And I was super happy when I found her as a new author in 2021. She started writing in 2020 with the pandemic. And as horrendous as the pandemic was, the amount of new authors that have come out in the last couple years, or the amount of authors that were able to really focus because of the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders, focus on their craft and finally get that extra push they needed to work on their books or publish books or write books for the first time is astounding. And so many of the new authors that I found in the last year or so were able to get this chance because of the stay-at-home orders. And while it's horrendous and I hope to never go through something like that again, my reader's heart is happy for that aspect because like Elsie Silver and it makes me happy to find new books and new authors that I can just... And I don't know, and maybe it's just me, but a lot of these debut authors, I feel like, or these newer authors, and this is a completely other thing that has nothing to do with the readathon, so I'm sorry I'm going off, but it just, a lot of them I know have been romance readers for a long time, so I feel like they understand the genre and what a lot of readers want from a book going into writing it. And so we're getting debut books that are really higher level than they have been in the past, I feel like, because these are readers that have been reading so many books and they're like, I have this story that I want to read and they cannot find it, so they write it themselves. And it just makes me happy, guys. Books make me happy, and I will never stop reading for the rest of my life. But all right, I'm gonna get back to Darkest Night and try to finish it by tonight, and I will be back to update you once I've done that. Hello, it is 10:45 and I just finished Darkest Night. 5 stars. Oh my gosh. I loved this. It's definitely light paranormal, but magic is a huge thing in this. And I was wondering, because in the clip I mentioned before, I talked about how Khan's parents were magic users. And I was like, is he? And he never was really trained in it, but he can do like little tricks. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And I loved that when we got to the end and we got to the big bad guy, he, like you would expect, I feel like with a lot of books, for Khan to then, when he's confronting this guy that killed his parents, why did you do it? But like, and then him to do his like villain monologue, and he just killed him. No questions asked. I mean, and they could have asked questions because, get this, he recognized Athena. Hi. What are you doing? There's your teaspoon right there. What are you doing? She's so silly. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. I'm a teaspoon. Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness. Okay, she's gonna sit right here. My goodness. But I was just like, they could have asked him questions and they could have drawn it out to get information from him about how he knew Athena. So there's this other guy. This guy, his name started with an L, and it's not his real name. It seems like it's some sort of like title that he uses for their like occult group. And there is another one who was the one behind the big magical massacre that happened when Silas found Athena. And he is Godal, I think. His name starts with a G. And I feel like Godal is related to Athena just based on the like two things that this guy says. Because he's like, oh, you'll be so happy and you're so powerful or something like that. I feel like he's her real father, or he knows her parents. Like maybe he's an uncle or something like that. But he does say her parents, because he's like, oh, you don't remember anything. And he goes, no, your parents weren't at the Russian place where this all took down. So maybe her real parents are out there still wondering what happened to their baby girl. There's so many things going on in my mind. But I loved it. I love seeing him get all badass at the end. And it was just so great, because I feel like also in a lot of books like this, someone has to get hurt and someone has to be rescued. And they were rescuing Leo. But Leo went into the situation intentionally trying to become bait. And while it didn't go down exactly how they wanted to, and they were going to have to rescue him in the first place, he was rescued, and Dante and him have this like little flirting thing going on between them. And I want to get their book. And I want to know who will. So, oh, that's right. I'm trying to think who the books might be. So there is a note at the end. There is a little preview, but I did not read, but I went to the end of it. And the next book, which is out, is Sharpest Edge, and that is and Silas's book. And there's a couple mentions about Iz having magic in her family, but then there's a talk about how she has this deck, and it has tarot cards and playing cards and oracle cards, and how you don't want, like, you have to be ready to when you sit down for a reading with her, because she tells you the truth, and the cards tell you the truth, and they don't hold back. And so you really have to be ready and willing to accept whatever truth it gives you. And I'm very intrigued. I love female hacker characters anyway, but that compared with like the magic in her bloodline, I already downloaded it off KU. But I'm not going to start it tonight because I want to try to get to bed at a normal time. But I am still a little bit awake, so I think I'm going to pick up a novella. But I'm not counting to the readathon, but but I'm trying to figure out who books 3 and 4 might be. So the only other people left in our grouping is Dante and Leo, but they're getting paired up together. Oh, there is someone that Athena mentioned in the beginning, like a Julian or something, that ended up staying wherever he was and not joining the group to help him work through this. And there is someone that Khan also reached out to. There was a woman who was like, I don't want any part of this, I'm sorry. And so she wasn't going to help them deal with this situation after the hits got put out on them. So maybe Julian and this woman will get paired together? I don't know, or maybe we'll get more hints in the next book. I don't know. I don't know. This is a problem. I like to pair people up for future books, but then sometimes people don't get paired up how I want them to get paired up or how I think they're going to get paired up, and then I get a little bit disappointed. But I don't know. I loved it. It was so much fun and a great way to end this readathon. I did use it for, I have my note here, Eat Her Out and Toil and Trouble. I was debating if I wanted to use it for Drink Me because there was quite a bit of both intentional and accidental blood play. They definitely were very rough with each other in the bedroom. And even though they would like lick the blood off of each other or taste the blood off of each other after like licking or biting each other, it wasn't any like intentional drinking. So I'm not going to put it as drink, but I at least read No Rest for the Wicked to cover that one. But there's that. So I read 4 books, 5 books. How many books did I read? That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, The Captain Merman's Promise, No Rest for the Wicked. Okay, and Darkest Night. So I read 4 books, which isn't bad, considering I did not read at all the first day of the readathon, last Sunday. I did not pick anything up until I was going to bed that night. And then for not reading until like 2 o'clock today on Saturday, outside of having to work all week, that's not bad. I definitely pushed myself a little bit more. And I'm excited to kind of keep reading spooky reads. I'm happy that all of these also worked for my Bang in the Night reading challenge. So I'm going to continue reading spooky reads for that for the most part. But I definitely enjoyed my time once again doing Love in the Night. I missed the last round because for some reason I didn't realize it was happening. And then I was like, oh, it starts this weekend. But by that point I had already like had a bunch of other books planned. And so I couldn't fit it in. So I definitely need to pay attention to readathon announcements more often and be better about checking my readathon Discord. But anyway, I had a lot of fun. Thank you to all the hosts for once again hosting it. And I can't wait to continue reading more paranormal and spooky books for the rest of the month and the rest of the year. And I can't wait for the next round. But I will see you all very soon. Thank you so much. If you participated in the readathon, let me know what your favorite book is. Because if I have not picked it up, I definitely want to look into it. And otherwise, you can just leave me a ghost, something spoopy, if you would like to in the comments. But otherwise, I will see you all very, very soon.